Your security status has been lowered.
I'm going in for murder. Oh, pay attention, Mr. Officer. Never gonna catch me, you're never gonna catch me. No, 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 no. You are gonna waste your time. You are gonna waste your time. Your time. I won't go to Guantanamo. You won't put me in the jail. Oh no, you are never gonna catch me. You are never gonna catch me. Gonna catch me. Never gonna catch me. Never gonna catch me. Gonna waste your time, waste your time, gonna waste your time. Gonna waste your time, waste your time. Gonna waste your time, waste your time.
Yeah.
Gonna waste your time, waste your time.
Op success, boys! Oh, that fast thorax. That's fast thorax. Ah! Cadillac, my freaking hero. The drive-by scram.
Motherfuckers never catch me.
Nothing can halt the flow of Virage.
That's a fancy graviton high energy particle beam doohickey you got there. Let's shoot fireballs at it.
The damn thing gone pop. Bam-a-lam. She said I'm worried out of mind. Bam-a-lam. The damn thing gone blind. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam. Black Betty had a chop. Bam-a-lam. The damn thing gone pop. Bam-a-lam. She said I'm worried out of mind. Bam-a-lam. The damn thing gone blind. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty. Bam-a-lam.
This is why Stabber So Fast doesn't use a whip.
Black Betty, Bam-a-lam.
Woohoo! Look at that shit! Oh man, we're gonna get so busted. Let's get out of here.
Can I kite a Drevovac? I think I can drive. Yeah, I can kite a Drevovac. That's a battle cruiser. It's slow. It's Retain. I remember Retain. Son of a bitch.
Oh, Black Betty, Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty, Bam-a-lam. She's from Birmingham. Bam-a-lam. Way down in Alabama. Bam-a-lam. When she shake that thing. Bam-a-lam. Boy, she makes me sing. Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty, Bam-a-lam. Oh, Black Betty, Bam-a-lam.
It hurts my feels. Welcome back, all you friendly targets. We're going to take a break from the PvP montage to have some commentary. Yay! But if you're just here for PvP stuff, timestamps in the description, you can skip ahead. Here we're going to be talking about something that does affect everybody, but it's not really a critical importance, not in my opinion. At least not at the time. But CCP figures everything out, so we're all good. Anyways, I was watching a stream the other day called Open Comms, and I'm sure some of you have heard of them, maybe you guys follow them. Now, they're not a stream that I believe is meant to be taken seriously, especially given the fact that they drink quite regularly throughout the stream. They were discussing with a rather heated debate about the price of PLEX, and I don't know if you guys follow PLEX. I really don't, because I don't need to, but if you look at the market history, it has been rising at an exponential rate. And they were, well, for the most part, they were complaining about how it's been rising and not falling, and it's a bubble that should burst. CCP needs to have PLEX sales and fix the unsustainable economy of EVE. Basically, a lot of complaining about the price of PLEX, okay? A lot of heavy multi-boxers in that stream. That's fine, nothing against that. But my one lonely account could care less. The thing is, I'm listening to them argue back and forth about the price of PLEX, but they're completely ignoring the foundation of not only PLEX, but every item in the game. Now, PLEX is vastly different in its own category because it's directly involved with real-world money. Here's the thing and why I think the price of PLEX has risen so dramatically, and a simple way to fix it, but not just the price of PLEX, but lower the price of everything in the game. This might bite me in the ass. Just keep in mind, I'm not an expert of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm just giving my opinion with what I've noticed in the game pretty much since the introduction of PLEX to now. There is a difference between making ISK and generating ISK. EVE is a game with many different professions, and each profession can be lucrative and can make you lots of ISK. This depends on how good you are at it, and with experience and time, and it's all good. However, there is only one, we'll call it profession, that generates ISK, where all the ISK in the game comes from. The ISK you get when you sell your PLEX, the ISK you get when you sell a ship, a module. It all comes from NPC bounties. Essentially, every little bit of ISK you use was either generated by somebody killing NPC rat for the bounty, or by you killing the NPC rat for the bounty. That's where it all comes from. Now, I realize there's a few little niches. Agents give bonuses, and there might be some other things that have to do with NPC interactions. But as far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'll say at least 80% of the ISK generated in EVE Online, and it's probably more than that, comes from somebody killing an NPC for the bounty. Here's the thing. With all the professions in EVE, and the fact that EVE is constantly creating new content with new professions, we'll just use the recent development of Abyssal Dead Space. It's spreading the player base throughout these professions, but there's still only one that generates ISK. So CCP is introducing professions that can make you ISK, but they don't generate it. As far as I know, Wormhole Space was a big effect on this, because in Wormhole Space, there's sleepers. And I believe that none of the sleepers have bounties. So pretty much anybody killing NPCs in Wormhole Space is not generating ISK. And then there's the Abyssal sites. And as far as I know, none of the NPCs in the Abyssal sites have bounties. There might be some few exceptions with rogue drones, but because of the Dead Space alternate universe kind of gameplay mechanic behind that, I don't think they do. Now, I'm not in these professions, so correct me if I'm wrong. Here's where I think the Abyssal sites hit harder than anything else. Keep in mind, just my opinion. The Abyssal sites are, for the most part, PvE oriented. EVE Online is full of a lot of PvE pilots. People who have been running missions, especially pilots who got good at running the burner missions. They know what they're doing. They're really good at killing NPCs. When the Abyssal sites came out, they realized how easy they are to access and that they're more lucrative than mission running. You got these good PvE pilots going into the Abyssal sites now, and that's a big chunk of your ISK generators taken away from the game. Now, when there's a lot of professions that, say, give you items, okay, like the Abyssal sites, then those items need to be sold. You can't make money unless you sell those items. Those items by themselves, unless you're planning on using every single one of them, are useless to you. Like I said, unless you're going to use them yourself. Okay, so you got these items you're getting, and they need to be sold, but the ISK you're going to get from selling them is still only being generated in one spot. NPCs. So, really, the price of items is just dictated by how many people are killing rats. I just thought that was interesting. You know, if CCP was to add bounties to the Abyssal rats, wormhole rats and stuff like that, you would probably see a dramatic fall in the prices of every item in the game, including PLEX, because a lot of people just don't want to grind away at NPCs, so there's more people buying PLEX. Well, that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Am I missing something even deeper than this? You know, are there other ways to generate ISK in the game? To generate, I mean, substantial amounts of ISK than just NPC ratting. Remember, I'm talking about generating ISK, not making ISK. There's a difference. So, yeah, there's that. Now, let's get back to some PvP. This was a lucky gift. In my time zone, at least, the regional high-sec gate in Amamaki is very rarely camped. The gate is so massive that most people don't even bother. And when you do camp it, you have to have kind of a small gang to really be successful at it. If you ever see this camped by 1 or 2 dudes, man, go and try and get a kill, because it's usually really easy. They have to sacrifice quite a bit in order to try and point you and kill you quickly at that extended range, which means this afterburning dual tank rupture is going to have no problem killing them once it gets on top of them. One of them had beam lasers and the other had artillery, so they were hoping that they could kind of alpha me before I got on top of them. And that didn't happen. One of them was smart and warped off, but I guess came back to try and save his friend, which was a mistake. When my hunting grounds are barren of targets, I generally find it quite easy to use the suspect timer bait in Rens to get, we'll call it, fights. A lot of times I actually do get really good fights because there are a lot of PvP players that base out of Rens, so it's kind of a hodgepodge. I never really know what I'm going to get. Sometimes I get a really good fight. Sometimes I get this. This was I guess a PvE pilot, but he'd been playing the game for quite some time, which really made me confused that he'd never run into this situation before. So I go and shoot a mobile depot in my rupture. It's the same one from the gate camp, super tanky, little bit of DPS. And then I warp back to station in line with the mission running system next door. So it kind of just looks like I warped to the station, but it didn't dock and I was AFK. He spent the first 2 minutes slow boating towards me while shooting at me, while I was moving 0. Not at all, and was managing to miss for those 2 minutes. Once he got in range, though, I went ahead and killed all but one of his drones. I left one of his drones out in case he tried to de-aggress, because he looked like a pilot who was rather slow to react to anything, as you can see bouncing off the station there. And we were able to secure an Apocalypse kill. In my opinion, worst battleship in the game, at least for solo PvP. So, yeah. These ones are always really hard to record because they happen so fast. You have to be on point to get them. That usually I don't get the screen capture recording while it happens, but I did manage to catch a few of them, which you'll see here in a moment. These are kind of out of order, so it'll show up whenever it shows up. This is Suetonia's insta-locking Thrasher that he used couple of years ago in faction warfare to sit on gates and pop unsuspecting frigate war targets. And I find it really effective as a undock sniper. Basically, I do a lot of sitting around the Ren station when there's no targets, as mentioned before, to get fights. And when I notice somebody flashy or a pirate dock up, then I'll dock and grab this Thrasher. Now, the sensor booster graphical effects do not show as pronounced as they used to. So this is easier to get away with now than it used to be. Before, when you had a sensor booster a year or two ago, I mean, it just lit up the entire area around you, making it quite obvious to people that you were in an insta-locking Thrasher. Now it's just a subtle glow, and I'm really happy for this. But this was probably the most expensive kill I've got on the undock with the Suetonia insta-locking Thrasher. So, this thing is awesome. Judge was on his way up to Amamaki to fight Antivirus, and I was in a dual web shield buffer firetail. I did warn him that it was me when he came in, but you know Judge. Anyways, this is a couple encounters with a dual web high DPS firetail. When I say high DPS, that's relative. It's only pumping like 250 with heat, I think, but the dual webs make it so that 250 pretty much hits every time. My personal opinion where dual web no point fits really shine are when you're more interested in securing the site for the LP than you are for getting a kill. And if you do get a kill out of it, then that's awesome. But you have to be willing to sacrifice the fact that a lot of pilots who are paying attention, they're just going to get away. In this case, Andy didn't, but there were many who did. It's been brought to my attention that there are pilots who believe that I will basically pick on the new guys. Well, this is simply not true. Yes, I fight a lot of new guys, but in every situation where I know they're a new pilot, it was because they shot first. Maybe they took bait, but they shot first. And this situation was interesting. I was on my way out to the Great Wildlands in the Typhoon, and I came across this lonely new Rupture pilot who was running a site. And I don't think he realized he was in low sec, because I warped to his site 250 kilometers away from him, and he didn't leave. And then I warped down to a wreck on top of him, and he didn't leave. So instead of blowing him up, I helped him finish off the 2 rats, and then informed him that anybody who warps in there can kill him, and he was grateful. So, always help out the new guys. Here I want to give a shout out to Tal Trayson, hope I said that right, for the idea to run the Typhoon. Well, I learned my lesson a while ago not to run the same fit immediately after posting a video, and seeing that I still wanted to use the Typhoon because it was quite a bit of fun, the idea to run the Typhoon just made sense. I know it was a no-brainer, but honestly, I don't think I would have been flying it and got these great fights if he hadn't have posted this comment. So big shout out to you, buddy. And just a reminder, because this is easy to forget, when you're getting overwhelmed with targets in your area, but you still really want to fight, that's where Nano really comes in handy. This was another thing to compound why I started running the Typhoon. This fit is something I'm proud of, and I do think it's solid, but of course in a situation like this, against several battleships with a support fleet, brawling is just not going to work. And another shout out to Deep Blue, a corp mate of mine, for finally helping me figure out what's better between a target painter or a missile guidance computer if you can only choose one on the Typhoon. Turns out for a well-rounded solo fit, the missile guidance computer is slightly better. So this fight is my standard stabber up against a cookie cutter Hecate. Apparently people are still doing that, so there you go. And this is the same stabber versus an Inyo. And these are dual requests that were given to me for just literally being outside the station. This is my same stabber versus an Enforcer using the suspect timer, shooting mobile depot bait kind of thing. And I didn't expect this to be a particularly interesting fight, until I started to win. And of course, being, you know, high stake, just one of the things you got to deal with, his two alts come out and start repping him. But because he's multi-boxing, he forgets about points, so I just YOLO out of there. Now keep that in mind. Let's move on to the next clip. Recording started just as the first one died, but this is me undocking the deleter, a Varger, and removing his two Logis from the field. So, always nice to have one of these in your back pocket. And Suetonia's Thrasher again, except this time I'm using polarized autocannons. Much more DPS, a little bit better tracking, but you don't have the surprise alpha effect, so you got to be real close to your target. Here's another one with the polarized insta-locking Thrasher. I actually had help from the friendly Wolf here. He did a substantial amount of damage as well. I don't think I like the polarized one better. I just wanted to try something different. Of course, a duel request popped up as I'm trying to lock this guy, so that was funny. And there we go. Here's a lot of damage real quick. Now this fight is another cookie cutter Hecate, but it actually has a little bit of backstory. This guy had dual requested me before. I accepted, shot him, but then he docked. I was waiting for him to come back out, but he didn't. What had to be less than 10 seconds away from our aggro timer expiring, the kittens started fussing. I went to check on them, and I came back in a pod in the station. So, he got me, AFK. And of course, I wanted blood, so came back out, and it was pretty easy to get a fight out of him again. He was a little bit confused as to how a stabber could kill a Hecate. Apparently, he doesn't watch YouTube videos. Been having a lot of luck with the insta-locking Thrasher and Rins lately. I think all of these kills that you're seeing are within 24 hours of each other. The Thrasher ones anyways. And here's another one. I think this guy just simply forgot that he had a suspect timer and was trying to pick a fight with somebody else, completely oblivious to the Thrasher right behind him. And that's going to wrap it up for the PvP commentary in this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Leave your opinions in the comments. Let me know what you think of this. In my own opinion, I believe that CCP should take their official alliance and recruit active players. Not with a goal to hold sovereignty or influence market or anything like that. Just players who simply fit ships, standard like anybody would, go out and get fights. Solo, small gang, large gang, all of them. I'm more particularly interested in CCP actually having solo players to have direct influence on game development. But I would like to know what you guys think. Maybe they wouldn't be the actual developers themselves, but players who play the game and have direct contact with development. This would show with definitive proof that CCP plays their own game. It can really feel like they don't sometimes when you're out there on your own. I know a lot of you are going to say this is not a game designed for solo players. But believe it or not, a lot of the YouTube videos you watch, including this one right here, some of the absolute best are made from solo players. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of that. CCP actually having a dedicated alliance for PvP. That would be awesome. Okay, real quick, for anybody who knows nothing about drones, here's a breakdown. Propellers, you got 4 of them, along with motors and speed controllers. They send power to the motors. They get their signal from the brain. It's a little flight controller in here. It's like a small computer, does all the work. On top of that, you got a video transmitter. The video transmitter uses this antenna to shoot an image into my goggles, which I can see pretty much what the drone sees. but it doesn't look nearly as good as what you guys are going to see, because you see through the GoPro session